Hello and welcome to the Monday, May 2nd, 2011 City Council Informational. We'll call the meeting to order. We'll start off with our City Council staff report from Deborah A. Owen, City Clerk, Chief of Council Operations.
Thank you and good afternoon, Sioux Falls City Council. A couple of reminders for the 7 o'clock meeting tonight. There'll be a request by Community Development to move one of the items up from 27 to 19 to have both his ordinance and the resolution to be heard together and then voted on in tandem. And then in addition, there is a couple of items that will be added to the May 9th agenda. There's a provision in city ordinance that says that you can discuss these matters and they'll be automatically added. So those pertain to Parks and Rec, and it's a timely matter for them. So at the end of tonight's agenda, under open discussion or new business, Don Kearney can address those items then, and then they'll automatically be acted upon by the council at the subsequent council meeting, which is May 9th. And those notes are in your agenda. Just wanted to remind you of that for the 7 o'clock agenda. And that is all I have. Thank you very much.
Any questions for Deborah on how that works? Okay, seeing none, we'll start off with we'll go into an audit committee report, but we do have that is going to be covered in our executive session later on after our meeting. We'll go on to our land use committee meeting. I'm not sure if the chairwoman would like to discuss that. We haven't had a meeting.
I would report that we had no meeting, and that we did. We're in the process of rescheduling all the items that are on that agenda, and we're looking at a couple months worth of pretty full agendas. So, thank you.
Any questions of the land use? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to City Council open discussion. Anybody have any items they like to cover? Councilor Brown.
A couple of items. First of all, right after this meeting, we'll have a fiscal committee meeting, and the items for discussion include authorization of city contracts, discussion from sewer and water rate increase freeze for some households, and then discussion of sewer rate increases, and also a TIF discussion. So those items are up. And then I also have a question, and I don't know if Darren or if Deborah wants to answer it. But in regard to the agenda tonight, item number 27, I'm unclear on, it says $35,000 in the resolution. The total cost is $65,000. Can you get my head wrapped around that, Darren?
Yeah, sure. And I was going to address that tonight too, because I know a couple others had the same question. And honestly, Tracy, if you want to get really technical, could probably do a better job than me. But the total price for the consultant is $65,000. The reason, the ordinance is for the supplemental appropriation for the full amount. Item 27 is a resolution to amend the CIP because the finance staff have been recommending that anything event center related, anything event center spending related is capitalized and tied to the event center project. So the dollar amounts are basically our internal numbers in terms of how we're breaking out where we see the consultant's time spent. But it's more of an internal deal. But the resolution is to amend the CIP and make it a CIP project, essentially.
Okay. Mr. Chair, if I may ask a couple other questions regarding this issue. Darren, so does that mean that $30,000 is for the pavilion and the zoo?
Not really. It's more of an internal breakdown, again, of the $60,000, 60 of the $65,000 was our package, the package price. That was the, if we went with all the options included, it was $60,000, and then we negotiated an additional $5,000 for travel, included all the trips, so it wasn't open-ended. So you end up with a $65,000 total price tag for all the analysis and evaluation. And again, the 35 and 30 is basically how we see them spending their time in terms of the proposal, the number of hours, and so forth. That's how we chose to break it out. But it's just really internally for our own purposes.
Okay. So can those two entities be separated out?
In terms of the $2 amounts?
Yeah, for the zoo and the pavilion and the naming rights study?
Yes, I mean, you could amend that out. It is going to change the dollar amounts for them to do work for us. because then you'd be separating the services. And that's something we could talk about further. But you could amend anything in there, but it would change the dollar amount for the supplemental appropriation.
All right. Thank you, Darren. Mr. Chair, if I may, I am likely to introduce an amendment tonight pulling the pavilion and the zoo out of the naming rights and visiting with those organizations. If it isn't nailed down, it's already got a name. I checked with the pavilion, for example, and they've got nearly $5 million worth of items in naming rights and only 1.6 left to name. So I just don't feel like we need to be spending the money when they've been clearly successful already in naming items and venues in their facilities. So I will be introducing that amendment this evening.
Any questions for Councilor Brown on how that will work and exactly what he's saying? Okay. Anybody? I guess we're good. Any other City Council open discussion items? I have a couple. Well, first off, I want to thank everyone for their thoughts and prayers for Beth and I. I sure appreciate it, and she does as well. Thank you. The other is that during this week, Mark, the Public Works Director, and myself are going to be meeting regarding Mark's proposals on other additional road improvements that could be done with that 3.8 the 3.8 million that's left. And it's my intention to expedite that just as fast as possible, and perhaps even to the point where next week I'll bring something forward for us to initially get on the agenda for the 7 o'clock meeting. I would be thinking about that if I were you on what other additional items we want to cover. I know we initially talked about the scoreboard out at the arena as an item that needed to be addressed immediately. So if you would like to be prepared for that, know that that's coming. And it's coming fast, and I'll try to expedite it as fast as I can. But Mark's done a lot of due diligence, a lot of work to get ready so that his numbers are accurate and we can address the roads as fast as possible. But if you've got an idea for the scoreboard, hopefully we can get some help from Terry and his staff and add a scoreboard if you'd like. Two other items. I wanted to ask, I'm just about done here. Just a few more weeks and I'll be done as your chairman. I know that no need to applaud, no, just hold the roar down, I know. But I wanted to just check real quick and in a big way and I guess in a public way to see if there is a problem with this process, the way we've been doing our informationals, the way that we're handling them. Is there something you want to change? Is there a method about this that we want to do differently so that we can hand it off to the next chair in the right way? Is there something that we would like to do different? Yes, Councilor Intiman.
The only thing I question is the allocation of time that we give for the informational meeting. It seems to me that this City Council has a propensity to garner as much information as possible and always have questions to ask. And sometimes it seems to me that the hour that we allocate for an informational meeting is not enough. And inevitably we have another committee meeting that follows, and then we go right into the council meeting. And from my recollection, a number of times we've either had to cut informational short, we've had to cut committee meetings short in order to be able to reach the time of the council meeting, let alone if we have a joint county-city meeting. So I guess what I think I would challenge the leadership to do is look at the scheduling a little bit and see the time that we have our meetings. Are they cast in stone? I don't believe so. Is there a possibility that we could do like a joint county-city meeting starting at 3 o'clock before we have our city informational? Is that possible? I don't know. We'd have to check with the county commissioners to check and see. But I'd really like us to take a look at the scheduling and make sure that we allow adequate time for input, to receive input from staff, as well as be able to voice our own input at these council meetings.
Councilor Aguilar.
The request has already gone to Minnehaha County to start the meeting at 5:30 rather than 5. This is the way that it began, when the council system began, and then one of the past councils had requested that it begin at 5. So I think that additional on that third Monday of the month, having it start at 5:30 will be beneficial.
Then the only reason I question, what about starting earlier? Is it not possible that we have that one before we even start our informational, knowing that we always have committee meetings that come in, more time is required? There's been a number of times we've had a joint meeting where we've had to cut informational short in order to meet that schedule.
The only thing that I would see that would be a problem is that during the budget period, we usually start our hearings at 3 o'clock during that whole 2-month period. So, that could be another conflict, but it is something, I guess, that we could look at.
Just look at it, see. Appreciate it. Thank you.
And as part-time counselors, we need to kind of keep in mind our other schedules and lives, and as well as making these meetings available to the public in a decent way.
And it seems like, and excuse me if I might.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
And it just seems like for us to postpone, we have our meetings, committee meetings, about once every month. So if we don't get the input put in, then we're delayed for another 30 days before we continue the discussion. And the only thing I suggest is that we as counselors, a lot of us plan on our Mondays as being a lot of time that we change our schedules to be able to accommodate the time that we need for the council meetings and the committee meetings, the informational meetings.
Right.
And it might be just easier for our scheduling to do that. So it's just some consideration, some dialogue I think that we should have. Just take a look at it.
Any other comments or thoughts? Okay, very good. One other item was the economic impact study that was done. Has everyone had a chance to read it, absorb it, soak into it? Just that, tonight, here shortly, the mayor is going to make his recommendation, and I'm sure that he has had a chance to review it and take it for everything that it's worth and analyze it, justify it, whatever. But I just want to make sure we do the same before we make our decisions. If we need to spend more time in a discussion or a special meeting with, I thought it'd be good to have SMG and Global, our representatives there, and the CVB in the same room, so we could ask them. I've got some questions, a lot. And even down to the point of trying to figure out just like a one-page summary sheet of all the details that I would ever want to know about the impact of an event center for our community. All the way down to just for me, the bottom line of all the sales tax revenue that would be generated because of an event center, how much would that be? And how would that go back to paying for the event center? Because I just feel like there's a lot of people in our community who want an event center but don't see a justification for it. And it's that extra sales tax revenue that can come back to our community that we can capture and build even more roads, more libraries, and hire more police officers. But I need to figure out where that is and just how long it would take for us to get there. But that's my point of view, but I'm wondering if others have similar questions. And all I want to make sure is that we get to wherever we want to be, we get there before we make our final decision. Is Councilor Erpenbach.
I just in conversation with you about this, I would number one say we're not making any decisions tonight.
Right.
And it's going to be a long time before we do make decisions, I think, because we're not even close to having the information that we really know that we need to have. The other thing I would say then is maybe we need to think about us as a group. We seem to work pretty well on those work sessions, where if we just put that on the agenda as one thing we're going to do and we're going to sit and grind it out for 2 hours at a work session, that might be what we want to do with that, to really do some what ifs and some, going back and forth about it. And maybe we want to bring in, maybe we do want to bring in other folks to talk about it from their perspective as professionals, local professionals. But maybe we also want to bring in someone that kind of takes over the chair duties. Maybe we want like a facilitator when it comes down to it. And I'm not saying that we have to do that, but it might be something we want to think about in terms of how we go about that conversation that could be, it could be kind of contentious, could be real interesting stuff, but I think we need to let ourselves do that, in terms of had lots of information dumped on us, but now how do we process that as a group? Because we really do work as 8 collaborative people in this team, and I just think that might be a way to do it.
Councilor Karski.
I like your idea, Councilor Jameson, of involving the management companies. Our biggest user most likely will be the CVB, depending on the location. And I hear a lot of numbers, and I'm not sure what to believe. I see studies. Some of them are new, some of them are old. But I guess I would like to hear from the CVB and from SMG what they see and what they feel, because I don't think, from what I've heard or seen, I have not had input or feedback from them unless I've specifically called them up. And I think it would be good in a public forum to be able to hear and see what they are saying.
Right. Now, I admit I've been a little busy with some other things, but I would really like to see some things just explained, like, why did you come up with this number? How did you come up with this number? And maybe it's here, and it probably is, but I do have a further discussion that I would like to have myself. And so if we wanted to have a working session, if that's the will of the council, then so be it. It certainly wouldn't hurt, that's for sure. Okay, well, we can work towards that. Anything else? All right, very good. Then we'll move into our presentations. We do have 2 pending or 2 items to cover in executive session, and we do have a committee meeting following it. If the council would like to have well, I guess there'll be time for questions, but know that we do have 2 pending items to cover in executive session and a committee meeting all before the 7 o'clock. So with that said, we'd invite the mayor up for his event center recommendation. Mayor?
Councilor Jameson and City Council, thank you so much for the opportunity today. I certainly appreciate it. As you all know, I am going to make a recommendation on where I personally believe the proposed new event center should be for our great city. And I wanted to kind of outline today's game plan just a little bit. I'm going to start by talking about the recommendation and rationale on the site that I've selected for the new events center. After that's done, important next steps, and then also how we can ensure success for all of Sioux Falls. There's certainly been months and months of discussion and study on this topic. As you know, the consultants and the professionals that we hired, they identified 2 really quality sites for the proposed events center. One was located downtown, and another one was located at the Arena Convention Center site. And what I thought I'd do is talk about downtown first. The future of downtown Sioux Falls, as you know, is unbelievably bright. And there's been well-planned and private, publicly supported commercial development that has made downtown certainly very successful. This will continue. Commercial property values in downtown Sioux Falls has grown 6.7% a year on average, and residential property values have grown 3.5% per year on average from 2000 to 2010. Our downtown, unlike many others across the country, is not blighted and is certainly not facing emergency care. AECOM, that was one of the groups that we hired in some of the work that they had done with local developers and investors here in town. They reported that local developers are already planning to invest up to $500 million in commercial development in downtown Sioux Falls. Aggressive plans for downtown Sioux Falls are well underway and strongly supported by Sioux Falls taxpayers and government officials. This has been a pattern that has been very consistent over the years. This is important. Millions and millions of taxpayer-funded dollars are invested in the core of our city in downtown Sioux Falls, and they should be. variety of different ways that this occurs, starting with one that I know you're all familiar with. I don't know if the people of Sioux Falls are, and it's called tax incremental financing. Since 2005, there's been over $16 million in approved projects that will benefit from this TIF financing. It's important to note that there's not been a private building constructed in downtown Sioux Falls over the last 20 years that hasn't benefited from TIF financing. The River Greenway project is another very, very exciting project that's well underway. We'll spend about $4 million of taxpayer money on that. We've got 8 parks. We've got the Washington Pavilion that we're all proud of, the Orpheum. There's an organization called Downtown Sioux Falls that is working wonders to promote our core. And we invest about $135,000 a year in that. And then the facade easement program is one that has been going on since about 2001. And there's 24 projects that has benefited from that. There's other things going on, such as the River Ramp redevelopment project. We've got a very, very solid proposal that we've received. We're unbelievably excited about it, and we're going to make that happen as soon as we possibly can. The railroad relocation is one that we all wish would have happened by now, but we will work in an extreme fashion to make sure that that happens in 2014 at the latest, if we possibly can. The Uptown Sioux Falls project, that's one that I didn't start, but I really want to get kick-started again, and we'll work with the developers to make that happen. There's been major road and infrastructure improvements in downtown Sioux Falls, such as the Phillips Avenue road construction project, 8th Street, which took place last year. And as you are very, very familiar with, and the people of downtown Sioux Falls are familiar with, there's major concrete repair and so much more going on in our downtown. Darren Smith, Erica Beck, and many others are thinking outside of the box to try to find other community development incentives that can help spur on activity in downtown. And I don't want anybody to forget the $9 million that we just spent to renovate our main library, which is located, of course, in downtown. We are so fortunate in this town to have private individuals, private businesses, private investors that are willing to invest in to downtown Sioux Falls. Helping to lead the way are folks like Jeff Schlerslick with the Sharapa investment that he's made. Craig Lloyd and company. The Holiday Inn, they're going to invest millions to renovate the Holiday Inn downtown. The Howman family and the Howman building in that exciting project. Avera Technology and the nice new Avera sign that's located in the heart of our city. Raven Industries and so many, many more. There are businesses, large and small, that always are there to help make our downtown more vibrant, more exciting, whether it be the folks at Rayfield Gallery or Minerva's, the numerous banks and legal firms that are located right in the heart of our city. Child's Play Toys and that expansion, that's a business that started just a while ago, and they're already expanding. I love it. Parker's Restaurant, Crawford's Restaurant, Mama Lotta's, they're expanding. Vienna, and of course, what you see in front of you, C&A Surety. And what an incredible and valuable project that'll be for our city. Downtown has benefited from great leaders in the past. Some of them have been public stewards, just like all of you. Mayor Munson was one of them. Mayor Munson deserves a lot of credit for what has happened in downtown Sioux Falls, especially with the Phillips to the Falls project, cleaning up the falls, which is our namesake. And I'll tell you, that is a man that took so many hits, absorbed so many arrows along that journey, but there is no one who will criticize him now for the worthy project that he helped lead. My commitment to all of you and to the people of downtown Sioux Falls is to lead as well. We are going to move those railroad tracks. We are going to redevelop that eyesore called a river ramp. We will work in partnership with folks like Sioux Falls Development, the Downtown Sioux Falls Organization, the Chamber of Commerce, and Community Development to capture all of the opportunities that are there for downtown. In Sioux Falls and downtown, you have my word, you have my commitment that we will make the heartbeat of Sioux Falls pump even stronger. I've told you, I believe that every downtown, whether it's in Sioux Falls or San Antonio or wherever it is, it should be a place where you work, where you shop and dine, where you live, and yes, ultimately, where you reflect about the day that God has given you. Throughout this process, I have been asked time and time again about what factors would I consider before I made this recommendation to all of you and to the people of Sioux Falls. I'll try to outline them for you as best I can. First of all, you need to understand, because of my life's history, because of my background, I'm one of the most fiscally conservative people you're going to meet. So cost and taxpayer expense is critical for me. I've got 25 years of business experience. I've told you I'm going to try to bring that business acumen, that business experience into the role as mayor and into city government. So yes, economics and business acumen is going to play a vital role in the recommendation I make to you today. Something that is absolutely critical and that I can never lose sight of is something that is stuck with me and all of you and all of the people of this city. It's South Dakota common sense. We cannot pull the wool over people's eyes in this town and in this state. If you do, you get burned. We've been talking about this project, about this topic for well over 12 years. And as all of you know, and the people behind me know, we've spent a lot of money on experts, on professionals, as well as we've had good stewards that have invested their time and their talent trying to help us move this critical project forward. I didn't want to forget about them. And then, yes, I was elected to serve, just like all of you. I've tried to be as open and as available as I could be to all of you and to these people of Sioux Falls. And I listened. I've tried to learn. I've tried to evaluate as best I can. And so I could not forget the public servants before me and the citizens that all of us represent and serve. And last but not least, I'm going to focus on all of Sioux Falls. I will listen and I will learn from special interests. I will. But I'm not going to be controlled by them. Cost and taxpayer expense. It's important. The Arena Convention Center site, it's available now. And one of the things that has been made very, very clear is that the longer we wait, the more expensive this thing's going to be. We need to minimize cost inflation as much as we can. This is city government-owned property out at that site. There are parking options that are more prudent, and there will be many more discussions on this topic because, as the people have learned, parking is one of the big things that we need to consider. The operating revenues are $200,000 per year higher. We can share amenities and space that are already there. And here's something that I think we need to truly understand and remember, is that we don't have to build a new convention center if we utilize that Arena Convention Center site. Don Detlefs, I think, said it best. He said, we can kill two birds with one stone, and that is a new event center will provide additional and, more importantly, adjacent flat floor space and special event facilities. I had the folks of the Build It Downtown group talk to me, and they were very passionate about, Mayor, remember where you came from. Make sure that you infuse that business acumen in this important decision for our city. Don't forget it. Not going to. At the Arena Convention Center site, we will have much stronger earnings. There will be much greater spending that will occur if we build the new event center at the Arena Convention Center site. It's been estimated $6.5 million more will be spent in Sioux Falls each year. Sales tax revenues will be superior. Lodging and bed tax revenues will be much greater. There will be higher operating revenues, more jobs, more people staying in our town, and something that I need to make sure that people understand is to say that there has been no economic impact from the current Arena and Convention Center site is just plain wrong. We have been reaping the rewards from that investment that was made 51 years ago. We have been reaping the rewards from the Convention Center site in the millions and millions of dollars each year, and we will continue to do that. Study after study, report after report, expert after expert has said something that is critical, and that is the most successful venues on the operating side are those that are attached to a convention center. South Dakota common sense. People have talked to all of you. They've talked to me, not only in Sioux Falls, but they've talked to me in Mitchell and in Rapid City and in Brookings and in Yankton and in Tripp about this same topic. They're engaged in it too, just like all of us. Time after time, they talk about what makes sense. Here's what they talk about. You've got to take advantage of the investments that you've already made. The convention center, the parking, the roads, the arena, the management resources. They get it. Something that's important, and you just saw it in a letter to the editor this weekend. The peak time to be using a new event center is not in the summer. It's in the winter. It's in the winter. That's where you make your money. And I don't want to speak for every South Dakotan, but I think I can speak for most. That during this winter months, we like to be indoors. I'll tell you, we'll save the winter wind and the cold for someone else. We've already got an established sports and visitor complex, and something that I'm excited about, and that we haven't talked a lot about, and we need to, we've got another sports complex that's going to be a stone's throw away, the Sanford Sports Complex. It's only going to make the Arena Convention site better. And then, as Councilor Brown has been hammering and hammering and hammering, and he's right. The man is right. Building it is one thing. Operating it is another. And operating efficiencies are going to be key. Advice. St. Combs Detlefs, Cook Hazard Architects, Mortensen Construction, AECOM, the Walker Parking Consultants, CSL, Convention Sports and Leisure International. We've had very, very fiscally prudent and conservative people that have come in front of the City Council, at times challenging whether all of this money to hire these folks was worth it. And were we going to actually heed the attention of the advice that they gave? CSL, the group that was hired previously, they've said the same thing in their report that was just recently said in the recent report. Flat floor space is critical to the ultimate economic return of a new event center. You know, all of these firms, this is not their first rodeo. We selected the best firms in the nation to work on this for us. Their reputations were on the line. AECOM, the group that has received probably the most negative attention over the last week, they have done 18,000 studies, just like the one that we paid for. They are not going to be controlled, and they are not going to be bought by anyone. One of the things that I've been concerned about, and it's something that as public stewards, I know all of you care about, is that I didn't want to diminish the incredible amount of time and talent that we had volunteers and stewards of our community put in during this journey. I'm not going to mention all of them, but let me just focus on those in yellow. These are the people that, for nothing, and their companies, their businesses let them get involved in picking the architects and the engineer and construction team. Mark Lee, Willie Sanchez, Mike Sullivan, Frank Hughes, Jeff Kreider. They spent their time and talent trying to pick the right firm. Then it came to the Economic and Development Impact RFP. Tom Bosch, the first name on the list. Tom Bosch stood before you. He wasn't lying. He wasn't told what to say. He wasn't controlled by me. Tom Bosch stood before all of you, and he told you just how thoughtful and diligent the process was. The team, Tom Bosch, Lynn Keller-Forbes, Cindy Morrison, Michael Roach, Erica Beck, Mike Cooper, Tom Huber, and Darren Smith, they did what they thought was best for all of Sioux Falls. In 2005, there was an event center task force, again made up of stewards that cared about this community. In their report, and again, this was 6 years ago, if the relocation of the railroad tracks is now progressing on a course which parallels the event center development without adding significant cost to the event center, or if land acquisition is not achievable at a reasonable cost, the city should not hesitate in pursuing the project at the convention center site. Sioux Falls, this was 2005. 2005. At that time, there was a study that was done on what it would cost to build a 12,000-seat new event center for our town. And it also included...
Mr. Mayor, can you please speak
Yes,
into
I'm
the
sorry.
microphone? The rest
It
of the
also
city is
included-
watching.
It also included a recreation center. The estimated cost in 2006, $51 million. Now, it's well over 100. In 2009, we had a group of individuals that spent at least 18 months working on this. I'm not going to read all their names, but they're here for all of you to thank at some point in time because of their time and talent that they spent. They were very, very clear in their recommendation of the Arena Convention Center site. They were also very clear to the council and to the people of Sioux Falls why. In their report, it states the task force believes the most appropriate location for our new facility is at the current Arena Convention Center site. This site is the one that allows a new facility to best work within the existing facilities to offer the needed flexibility. The task force also recognizes the opportunity provided by a downtown location, just like I do. Just like I do. But feels it would not allow for contiguous space with the existing convention center. Daytime parking for trade shows would also be challenging. And I was there, December 14th, 2009. I was there. And some of you were as well. In fact, I think most of you were. On December 14th, 2009, the Sioux Falls City Council approved Resolution 121-09. It's about a year ago today. The council was clear, and there was no debate that night at all about the location. There was none. One of the things that I can't forget, I was elected to serve. But before I was even elected, I spent a year going door to door, business to business, talking to as many people as I can about all kinds of topics. And one of the topics that came up time and time again was this event center. I felt I had a pretty good pulse on the people then, and I still believe that I do. There was polling that was done. At that time, the poll said that the current site was preferred by those who wanted a new event center, 50% of the time, downtown 15, elsewhere 24, and those that were not sure, 4%. If those numbers have changed, we all would know about it. Let's make that very clear. If these numbers have changed, we would know about it. Back to my business acumen. One of the things that, like for example, Councilor Entman is very, very conscious of, is that your business model better reflect the consumer's wishes, or they're not going to come to your store at all, or they're going to go somewhere else. In the AECOM report, they were very, very specific. They said 6 out of every 10 people that will utilize your new event center if you build it are going to come from outside of town. We have to remember them as well. If we're going to make this business model work, we have to heed what they want as well. Councilor Brown sat there, I think it was last week or the week before, and he told all of you the same thing that I've been hearing. That people from outside of Sioux Falls, they're even more passionate about where they believe it should be. So what should we do? What's my recommendation? Well, again, I looked at all of these things as best I could, keeping all of Sioux Falls in mind, and I looked at both sites in a way you can't imagine. What is the most prudent and fiscally responsible location? I believe it's the Arena Convention Center site. What is the best business decision for our city? I believe it's the Arena and Convention Center site. What makes the most common sense? I believe it's the Arena and Convention Center site. What do the experts recommend? The Arena Convention Center site. And then maybe what is important to us, and I think it should be, is what is the pulse of the people that we serve? I believe it's the Arena Convention Center site. My recommendation is to build a new event center for the City of Sioux Falls at the Arena Convention Center site. And I know that there are strong feelings on this issue. And I really know that there are good Sioux Falls citizens who lobbied for and are passionate about the downtown site. And I know that some of them are disappointed in my recommendation. This event center topic is one in which all of us and every citizen of this town will not agree on in its entirety. But I do believe that what is important is that we come together as a team, come together as a community. You know, while healthy debate will continue, and it should, we need to engage each other positively and productively and reach for that common ground. Because I'll tell you, we need to do what's right for Sioux Falls and, yes, South Dakota, and move this project forward. It is the only way we will capture this opportunity that has truly evaded us for years. We do this in Sioux Falls, and we can do it again. I've given you my recommendation, but I also want to try to give you at least some understanding of what are some potential next steps. And again, nothing's been decided. Councilor Urbanbach was very, very clear on that, and I respect that. There will be no decisions made after I'm done. There will be no decisions made by the council tonight, and maybe not even in the near future. But I at least want to outline some steps for all of you, because I think that's important. First of all, we do want to get St. Combs deadlifts. We want to get them actively engaged as fast as we can. For example, on the conceptual design, we want to continue to focus more and more on Tracy Turback and getting the financials and the funding going. That includes naming rights, maximizing that private investment. We'll talk about that more tonight, I hope, and I hope that you will understand why we need to move forward on that. The financing plan, the capital improvement plan budget, the operating budget, the bonding proposal, parking, and McCart Fields. This is a topic that we need to explain the rationale on. We need to alleviate concerns, and yes, this is important. We do need to also look at potential alternatives. And I will tell you, there are some that are out there that we can explain to the people of Sioux Falls and that we can explain to the people that are already engaged in this piece of the puzzle. And we need to have even more communication to garner more support from the people of Sioux Falls through forums. And we need to really focus on that need and return. Return was an important comment that Councilor Urbanbach brought up. And this is important because it's a 50-year investment. At the same time, I want to let the citizens of Sioux Falls know, we're not going to lose sight. This is only one topic of so many that we have to address in our city. We'll look at roads and the infrastructure, the public safety, the jobs, the development, and yes, those downtown Sioux Falls opportunities that I want to capture and all of you do too. And we want to maximize return. There's a couple of points I want to make sure that you're aware of. Because we're talking about a $100 million investment that we'll make for our city for over the next 50 years. But please be aware that every year in this town, we spend about $110 million on major capital projects already, if you include the Department of Transportation projects that we work on. And also, please be aware that already in this town, we've captured $63 million in building permits this year already. There's good things happening. This could have the potential to be a big thing too, but there's already good things happening. The project timeline. I've listed out a variety of different things here for all of you to see. They focus on two things. Number one, it's directing the design teams and the construction teams to dig even deeper and continue their work. And the other important thing is to communicate even more with all of you, but also with the people of Sioux Falls. Because if we don't communicate them in the most aggressive fashion possible, this thing will never pass. I'm not going to go through all the dates, but I think one of the things that you're going to see is that there will be even more question and answer sessions with me. Because I'm not going to run away from this issue. I want to engage it head on, and I need to. But I can't do this alone. And there are many, many other puzzle pieces that are left. 4 of them in particular I do want to touch on, because I'm going to need your help, City Council. What I would love to ask all of you to consider is there are 4 puzzle pieces that I would really urge you to get engaged in. I didn't put your names down here because I'm hoping that the leadership team of the council will consider this. But there are some puzzle pieces, such as the building and the planning and the programming needs of this new event center. Are there 2 of you who'd like to get engaged in that? The naming rights or the marketing side. Are there 2 of you who'd like to get engaged in that? Parking. McCart Fields, looking for alternatives. Are there 2 of you who'd like to get engaged in that? And then the financing and the operating expenses of this critical project. Are there 2 of you who'd like to get engaged in that? Because we welcome it. And I think the people of Sioux Falls would welcome it. They want to see this project come together as a team. And this is one way that we can ensure that that happens. This city is ready. It's your city too. And the time is now. It'll be, if we execute this project, as I know that we can, it'll be an immediate boost for Sioux Falls jobs, sales taxes, revenues. Don't forget, construction costs keep rising. If you really want to get it built, if you really believe in the project, if you truly do, but you don't know if the time is right, when is the time going to be right? We already know that in the last 6 years it's doubled in cost. How much longer are we going to wait before the time is right? In the report, and we all know that this will definitely do wonders to help employee and business attraction and retention. We've been actually anxiously waiting for this. And yes, our children and grandchildren are relying on us. And I believe sincerely that working together, there's nothing that we cannot accomplish. There are more puzzle pieces to go, but we're making progress, and I believe it's going well. Ultimately, when you put the puzzle pieces together, I believe that they point us towards building this new event center at the Arena Convention Center site. I want to thank you for your time. This has been one of the most difficult pieces of the puzzle, And if you agree with me, we'll move forward. And I'd ask you to truly consider all the things that I've talked about and more in today's presentation. Thank you so very much for this opportunity, and I want to thank the people of Sioux Falls as well. Councilor Jameson, I am certainly available for questions if you'd like.
Thank you, Mayor.
You're well.
Any questions for the mayor on this site recommendation? Councilor Aguilar.
Is your presentation going to be available online or
Yes.
in hard copy?
It's available immediately. And in fact, the hard copy is being presented to you now. The hard copy will be available to the media. Thank you so much for your patience. And we will also have extra copies for all of you that are located right there at the desk as you leave. And it will be available at www.siouxfalls.org for anyone in the city to see.
Any other questions? I have one I think that probably needs clarification. If you could go to your timeline,
Sure.
What's kind of next?
Thank you.
Yes, this one. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Next 90 days, May 3rd. Does that say that on May 3rd that the Sink Homes and Coke Hazard are going to start performing a conceptual design for an arena site?
That is the goal. That is the goal. What we want to do is engage. In fact, if you went back to earlier slides that I talked about, one of the things that you really want to have happen is to engage the folks that you've hired onto the next step so that they can truly go out, not only build the design, but also help determine those fixed costs, those construction costs, and so much more, so that we can ultimately someday come back to you with a funding, not only a funding proposal to determine the revenue side of the equation, but we also truly have to figure out the expense side of this equation. And Councilor Jameson, maybe if it, one of the questions that you may be asking inside is where do you go now? You know, what do you do now? I can't make up that decision for you, and only you can do that. I think you've got a variety of choices to utilize, to do going forward, but I'll leave that to you. If you would ask us to bring forth a resolution to consider, we can do that too, but I think that all of you are capable on that too, or you don't even need a resolution. We can just continue our work, but I will leave that up to the City Council to decide.
The reason I bring that up is just that it's a little concerning that you would be spending these dollars in a way that hasn't been approved by the council. And I think that's an important part of this step, is that the council gives you better direction on that. And I see that you've already got it planned that May 3rd you're going to be starting this. And it just seems...
Councilor Jameson, maybe I should let Mark Cotter explain this to you just a little bit. Thank you.
Council Chair, Councilors, Mark Cotter with the Office of Public Works. What's key is that as we set up the contract with Sink Cones, Deflis, and Coke Hazard, they have essentially 3 phases to their contract. Phase 1 was site comparison and analysis. Phase 2 is conceptual, then schematic design, and then Phase 3, if there's a positive public vote, would go into final design. This essentially would kick us into Phase 2, which is really to create the level of detail that Mortenson needs so that they can start to analyze the different building systems so we can maximize the amount of building that we get, but also progress in the process. And so those two essentially work hand in hand. And it is, if you go into June, on June 15th, that means that over the next 6 weeks, that they use their experience of other buildings that they've done, and they generate drawings that are at a level that Mortenson can actually then engage their cost models. So ultimately, we can start to answer some of those key funding questions. And so essentially, St. Combs and Coke Hazard would be very busy for the next 4 weeks, and then Mortensen can finalize that with June 15th on a detailed cost estimate at the site. That's what's key.
Okay, so both buildings really are about the same anyway, so this work that they're doing would be just kind of saved if we do something different. It's not like they're customizing for the arena site. That's
Right, with the exception of the outside skin and how you tie it in. Essentially, the bowl is the same, and so that's true.
Councilor Antonin.
Mark, and this all falls under what the original appropriation was, is that not correct? So there is no other request for any additional monies. This is all part of that first appropriation.
That's correct.
Councilor Brown.
Mayor Huther, are you also making a recommendation for when this will go to a public vote?
Nope. But all the things that are outlined there will at least help us provide you, the City Council, with some of the necessary meat on the bone that you're going to need to consider that. And much, much more. Kendra Simmonsma is working on getting you as detailed a project plan as possible so that if you are so intrigued, for example, Councilor Brown, you can look at all the level of detail and all the things that we're working on behind the scenes so that you can get as much information so that you can ultimately decide if you want to bring that to the people of Sioux Falls.
Any other questions? Councilor Erpenbach.
Just to clarify, then, one of the things that you said, Mr. Mayor, was that we don't even need a resolution to move forward. And I would beg to differ that we do, and I'm speaking to my colleagues on this matter, is that we do need a resolution. If it's going to the ballot, and we have said over and over again it would go to the ballot, it's going to require a resolution, and I'm going to challenge us as a council to be proactive in this and to decide, and I guess that goes back to what I was talking about earlier in terms of a work session, that is when we're going to write that ballot question and decide when it goes into an election. And then just by way of comment, I would say I was pleased to see that the drawing as it is, Mr. Mayor, does not include parking at McCart Fields. And I would challenge my colleagues, I would be very disappointed if you were to vote to pave one of the few parks in that part of town. And I would be very disappointed if we voted to pave any parks, whether it be downtown or whatever, that there has to be an alternative for that. And that's going to be where I stand on that, whether, regardless of what you say about McCart Field, it needs to stay a park, and I'm going to stand firm on that. And so then I would challenge you, Mayor, to come back with ideas about how we make those parking costs more evenly rated for the two sites.
And Councilor Bach, in the presentation, if you remember, I did talk about finding alternatives in that McCart Field parking discussion at the Arena Convention Center site.
That's going to be my challenge to the council, is that's where we're headed, is alternatives. We're not paving the park. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
I would add, just as we were, Councilor Anderson, myself, and Councilor Brown were the three that were on the council and voted on the last Event Center Task Force recommendations. Included a lot of different things than you included in your presentation today. And there are reasons people voted for it, reasons people voted against it. The location was only a part of that recommendation. But in the end, the council did vote on a resolution prepared by the administration that outlined all of those parts of what we were discussing. So, like Councilor Erpenbach had said, it's imperative that happen. When it happens, we'll just have to figure it out.
Very good.
You need ownership of this body to really get it going, I think. So we'll figure that out. But
thank you.
Lots of reasons why we supported it, and some reasons why we didn't. Anything else, though, for the good? Councilor Intiman.
I'd like to thank you, Mayor, for your presentation. I think it gives us some insight into what your thoughts are. I think the process going forward, as I have said many a times, we're further in this process than we ever have been. I think we're starting to get some information, some detail, a lot more to come that we need to work on as counselors. and I'm looking forward to continuing on with this process. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Einspin.
Okay, seeing none. Councilor Urbanbach.
I was just going to make a
Oh.
motion for the next.
Very good. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilor Jameson, I thank you for your time. City Council, I thank you for your time. I appreciate it. Make it a great day.
Councilor Urbanbach.
Mr. Chair, I would move that we go into executive session to discuss pending litigation pursuant to SDCL 125-2-3 and to discuss a personnel item pursuant to SDCL 125-2-1.
The motion was made by Councilor Urbanbach at 5:04, seconded by Councilor Rolfing to go into executive session. We do need to clear the room if we could as soon as possible so that the council could go into executive session. I will escort you out if you linger, so no lingering. Council is adjourned. Well, into executive
Do we
session.
need to vote? We need to vote on that, don't we?